A plan to have private security patrol city parks is facing pushback.
If I was on the street, the one place that I know I'd go all the time would be the parks.
Security guards are gonna watch them?
Yes.
That's a little crazy.
CBC News was the first to tell you about the plan to keep homeless encampments out of the parks. Now, one councillor wants to see the idea scrapped. And
Minister Lecce has been a strong advocate of combating racism in schools, and he has my full support.
PC leader Doug Ford is standing by Stephen Lecce, while the Liberal Party has now dropped another controversial candidate. Plus,
they're going to have their best game tonight. They're going to come out really hard, and we just got to make sure that we match that and exceed that intensity.
Our Leafs are in Tampa for Game 6. Can the Buds manage to win their first playoff series in almost 2 decades? A 17-year-old is in hospital tonight after being shot outside a Toronto high school. It happened before the lunch hour at Victoria Park Collegiate. Dahlia Ashery is at the school near Vic Park and Ellesmere. And Dahlia, what can you tell us?
Well, Dwight, a grade 11 student, as you mentioned, was shot here in this parking lot at Victoria Park Collegiate Institute. Toronto police attended the scene, and when they got here at around 11 a.m., they found shellings all over this area between the cars and the school bus, which is located right behind me. Now, there was a lockdown that was in place for the school, but that's been lifted, and TDSB school spokesperson Ryan Bird has addressed the situation for those that are concerned in the community. Here's what he had to say.
When something like this happens, especially during the day, right on school property in the parking lot there, it's obviously concerning for staff, students, families, community members. It's something that it shouldn't happen. And so I think what we've been trying to do is really focus on supporting students and staff.
Now, the grade 11 student faced serious but non-life-threatening injuries. Now, this isn't the first incident that has happened here at this school. At the track and field, which is located right to my left side here, there was a fatal stabbing that happened in November. Mahir Dosani was killed, and 2 other teens, ages 14 and 16, were injured shortly after school ended at 3 p.m. during a fight on the track at Victoria Park Collegiate Institute. Ryan Bird also addressing for any people that are concerned about this matter and the violence that has been happening in this area.
There's no reason to believe that there is any greater need for security measures at the school. But obviously, if there's any lessons that can be learned from this, we're happy to take those. But at this point, Toronto police have not indicated that there is any threat to the school or larger security issue at play here.
Now, the spokesperson for TDSB, Ryan Bird, says that there is social workers that are available for staff and students that are rattled after this incident, after the several violent incidents that have happened here at this high school. Toronto police are investigating the matter. They still don't have any information on a suspect, and we'll be using the video and surveillance from the school to help in this investigation, asking anyone with information to come forward. Dwight?
Thank you, Dahlia. Police north of the GTA are asking for the public's help as they investigate the murder of a Toronto man.
The main point of today's appeal is to reach out to members of the community that may know Mr. Shabani. We believe that they hold the key to help in identifying his movements in the days and weeks prior to his death.
The body of Mushtaba Shabani, who also went by the names Eric and Moji, was found inside a barrel in the Bradford Canal on April 15th. Now, police are reaching out to communities in Toronto where Shabani lived and is known to have frequented. This includes the Keele and Finch area and Church and Wellesley. Police say Shabani was a member of the LGBTQ community and came to Canada from Iran in 2010. So far, they have been unable to locate any of his relatives. Investigators continue to try and piece together his life with a focus on his movements in the last year. City councils are currently debating an issue we first reported on last night, Toronto's plan to hire security guards to patrol 6 city parks. The plan is an attempt to discourage encampments from popping up, but at least one councillor wants to stop it. Alicia San is gathering more reaction today.
This is the best spot for me to be.
Jordan is staying in his tiny shelter, which, like tents, are not allowed in parks. A month or 2 from now, if a park security guard saw this, everyone here would get reported to the city, which is looking to hire guards to deter people from setting up encampments.
that could be better spent on like housing people instead of running these like dive hole hotels. I know a lot of people that have just recently left a lot of the hotels because they were unsafe spaces for them.
Like Jennifer Jewell, who decided to leave the Bond Place shelter hotel and stay out here instead.
And I had the best night's sleep I've had in 18 months.
The security guards won't be doing any enforcement or clear any encampments themselves. They'll report to the city's Streets to Homes division, who will help people find another place to go, such as a shelter.
There's no community in the shelters. Everybody goes in there, has a lot of trauma, and living there is very traumatic on its own. So nobody can really see outside their pain to help each other build community like in the parks.
But the courts ruled last year that the city has the right to enforce the bylaw. How to do that is...
It's a hard conversation to have, man.
Compared to last summer's encampment evictions, this new approach is a more passive one. But the element of surveillance has some people at Trinity Bellwoods feeling uneasy.
So the security guards are gonna watch them?
Yes.
That's a little crazy.
I feel like if we have people patrolling through here, it changes the vibe.
As we first reported, the request for proposal is out there. Security companies are bidding on the contract now until May 30th, which means we could see security guards in 6 key parks in time for the summer. Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
On the Ontario election campaign trail, some of the provincial parties are dealing with controversies today. The Liberals have dropped 2 of their candidates after inappropriate comments surfaced. While PC leader Doug Ford is responding to news, Stephen Lecce took part in a fraternity slave auction. Lorinda Rudicop now with the latest.
Doug Ford was likely hoping to get the questions done today. Responding to controversies, his first time speaking to media in 3 days. A reporter asked about Stephen Lecce taking part in an event called a slave auction while in a Western University fraternity.
He's acknowledged that it was inappropriate, and he's apologized for attending this event as a teenager. And, you know, Minister Lecce has been a strong advocate of combating racism in schools, and he has my full support.
Another controversy, some PC candidates who accepted extra allowances from their riding associations when they were MPPs, in some cases tens of thousands of dollars. Among them, Lisa MacLeod and Khalid Rashid.
Well, I'll be pretty frank. I wasn't too happy when I found out about this.
He doesn't plan to drop them, saying it's not against the election rules, though others have called it unethical. The NDP wants the money donated to charity.
June the 2nd, I want to sit down with all the parties. I want to take a good hard look at these rules and tighten them up.
The Liberals have dropped 2 candidates, both connected to inappropriate writing about LGBTQ people. The latest, dug up by the NDP, social media posts by Alec Mazurek, running for the Liberals in Chatham-Kent-Leamington, repeatedly using a gay slur. The party leader was told about it by a reporter.
We'll take a look at the individual that you're mentioning here this morning, and if the circumstances or the information is correct, that individual will not be an Ontario Liberal Party candidate going forward.
The party later confirmed Mazurek was dropped. He wrote in a post that the comments, written when he was 15, were unacceptable then and unacceptable now. The Liberals already got rid of their Parry Sound Muskoka candidate after finding out he'd written a book spouting baseless views on homosexuality.
I think the test of leadership is to move decisively and to leave no wiggle room and to be unequivocal.
Here's how the NDP leader responded.
What I can tell you is homophobia is painful, it's hurtful, and it's something that we need to call out.
All on the deadline day for parties to confirm their candidates. Lorinda Rudicop, CBC News, Kitchener.
The Green Party releasing their fully costed election platform today. It lays out a plan to become a net zero province by 2045, but the transition won't come cheap. Clara Perseca has the details.
New solutions to old problems to address the concerns that the people of this province have and to build the Ontario you want.
The Green Party is promising $65 billion in spending, with plans to retrofit 40% of existing Ontario homes and workplaces by 2030 and 100% by 2040. They say they'll build 1.5 million homes, end blind bidding, and will implement a tax on those who own 3 or more homes to help first-time homebuyers. They'll also end exclusionary zoning so people have a variety of affordable choices in communities they love. The Greens would also spend billions on electric vehicle innovation and other green technologies.
This platform meets the moment that we are in, the now or never moment to address the climate crisis and ensure we set our children and grandchildren and ourselves up for future prosperity.
Schreiner says to pay for it, he'll increase taxes on the top earners while providing money to lower-income households to ease the transition. He'll double the rates for those who rely on the Ontario Disability Support Program and make more mental health services covered by OHIP. The party will also increase pay of PSWs and ECEs and hire thousands more nurses. Greens will also reappoint an Environment Commissioner. Diane Sachs, who held this role before the Ford government nixed the position, is now running for the Greens in the riding of University Rosedale. She took shots at the NDP climate plan, saying they had an unrealistic path to pay for their climate solutions.
So their plan is a fantasy. The Liberal plan is a little teeny piece. We are the only ones who have come to grips with the fundamental challenges and the real solutions that we need to have, that we could have, and that would make our life better.
The platform doesn't balance the books yet, but Schreiner says the party has a pathway to balance while continuing to invest in people and addressing the climate crisis. Clara Pasica, CBC News, Toronto.
Mayor John Tory is reaching out to the 4 main political party leaders with a list of what the city will need from the next premier. The city says it wants to continue working with the province on its plan to build 40,000 affordable housing units over the next 10 years. Another priority is financial support to cover TTC ridership losses and the growing pressure on the city's shelter system. Tory says he also expects the province to continue to invest in Toronto's public transit infrastructure. He also wants to see the province partner with the city to strengthen the SAFE-TO community safety and well-being plan and to create a more robust mental health care system. A nearly 20-year-long drought could end tonight when our Leafs hit the ice in Tampa for Game 6 of the playoffs. With a win tonight, the Buds would skate past the 2-time defending Stanley Cup champions to win their first playoff series since 2004. Let's bring in Greg Ross now. He's down at Maple Leaf Square. Greg, this is a position our Leafs have been in many times before.
They certainly have, Dwight, and that includes very recent history when you think about this current group of core players with Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, William Nylander, and Morgan Riley. This core group of players since 2018 have been in this position 7 times before this, where they have a chance to clinch a series, and they've yet to succeed at clinching any series in that span. In fact, we know that it's been 18 years since the Leafs have advanced to the second round of the playoffs, so a lot of demons to exercise in this series here and potentially in this game here tonight. But the Leafs are in tough on the road in Tampa for this game tonight. They have to beat the 2-time defending Stanley Cup champions. We know how difficult they are, particularly after a loss. They are now 16-0 in the last 3 playoffs after a loss. So the Leafs are going to have to try to beat them for the second time in a row to clinch this series tonight in Tampa. They talked about what's happening right now, the mood amongst the team as they get set to face this challenge.
I think we're in a good mood. I mean, I think everybody's excited, for the opportunity that we have tonight. It's going to be the hardest game to win is obviously the last one, the 4th game.
Yeah, I think just the opportunity that we have to close things out. Obviously, we haven't done that in the past, and that's, come back to really hurt us. So here tonight with an opportunity to win and move on is big, and I think we all realize that. We learned in the past what happens when you're not able to do that, and so we're aware of all the challenges that we face here tonight.
Shout out to my co-host. Hey, Dwight, it's Friday the 13th tomorrow. The Leafs are hoping for some good luck tonight before Jason makes his presence known tomorrow. So let's see if the Leafs can get this out of the way. Obviously, a big challenge for the Toronto Maple Leafs, but I guarantee you they do not want to come back to Scotiabank Arena for a Game 7 in this series. We know that anything can happen in a Game 7, and Leafs coach Sheldon Keefe said yesterday, you never want to give a team life in a series, and if they allow Tampa to win this game 6 tonight, they'll definitely be giving them a life and a chance of their own to try and win this series. So the Leafs trying to get it done in 6 and avoid having to face the dreaded Game 7. But I'll tell you what, we know that there are fans already out here celebrating right now before the game. I can't imagine what it's going to be like on the streets of Toronto tonight if the Leafs actually win this one tonight, Dwight.
Let's hope Jason behind you there can help us exercise those demons. Fingers crossed, no Game 7. Thank you, Greg.
Good one.
How good would that be, Colette, if we could pull it off tonight and just move on to round 2. Get that demon off of us. Let's just go, guys. Come on.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. And, you know, it's kind of hard, I guess. Well, it's not. But to think about hockey and when we're talking about temperatures that are this warm. But, hey, that's how it goes when you get into the playoffs. That you might see some summer-like weather showing up early. And, boy, have we. So I'm showing some communities I don't always put on. And basically, to make my graphic tonight, for this one anyway, you had to be over 28 degrees. Some of these records, not all of them, but all of our readings over 28. In some cases, I did have to round them up, but still, fair enough. 31 at Pembroke, Collingwood 32, Wyerton at 30, Sarnia 30, Kempville 30, and oh yeah, some also rans at 29 degrees. So just incredible readings. And I've been talking about the influence of the Great Lakes and how we have some cooler temperatures, including for Toronto, but it also has to do with the prevailing winds, because you're seeing some of these numbers here close to Lake Huron and Georgian Bay, and they're in those wonderful temperatures and high readings. So let's just put on here now, Toronto 26. We did have a breeze. It was light, but still southeasterly. That kept things cooler. Kingston as well kept it a little bit cooler. And speaking of those lakes and that influence, Lake Erie, 10 degrees right now. It depends where you take the reading, but 7, 8 degrees for Lake Ontario. Hey, we're still under this influence of high pressure, so guess what? More of the same tomorrow, Dwight. Why don't we just do it again? And hopefully we'll be celebrating something, right?
Come on, Colette. Repeat.
Yeah.
We'll be celebrating something tomorrow. We'll just, if we can talk it into fruition, right? Let's make it happen by talking about it. Thank you, Colette.
Yep, go Leafs, go.
Business leaders in the GTA are calling on the federal government to remove pandemic restrictions that they say are contributing long delays at Pearson Airport.
Over the past week alone, more than 100,000 people, 50% of travelers moving through Toronto Pearson, suffered extensive delays. International passengers are being forced to wait for up to 3 hours, sometimes inside the aircraft they flew in on, because of longer processing times by customs officers.
The Board of Trade says delays discourage people from wanting to travel and spend money in Toronto. The Greater Toronto Airport Authority says it expects the daily number of international arrivals at the airport to rise to 45,000 by the summer. It warns if restrictions aren't lifted, delays will become even longer. Business leaders say they are seeing positive signs the industry is rebounding and don't want to see their progress slip backwards. The United States is marking what President Joe Biden calls a tragic milestone. The country has officially recorded 1 million COVID-19 deaths. That news comes as the U.S. hosts a global COVID-19 summit. Matt Degrabe-Selassie reports.
As COVID-19 deaths in the U.S. reach a once unimaginable milestone, the flag at the White House is lowered.
1 million COVID deaths. 1 million empty chairs around the family dinner table.
Today, President Joe Biden talked about the people behind that staggering number.
Each irreplaceable losses. Each leaving behind a family, a community, forever changed because of this pandemic.
This comes as Biden hosted the second global COVID-19 summit. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is one of many leaders who took part.
The pandemic is not over.
On the summit's agenda, talk of getting more vaccines and treatments to parts of the world in need and preparing for other variants and outbreaks.
Today, I'm announcing new funding of $732 million for the ACT Accelerator. This includes funding to continue making COVID-19 vaccines available and funding to help low and middle-income countries support the health of women, children, and adolescents.
The White House says today's summit helped drive up $3 billion in new funding. Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus with the World Health Organization says there have been improvements. Vaccine supply is up, but nearly 1 billion people remain unvaccinated in lower-income countries.
Absorption has not kept pace due to insufficient political commitment, operational capacity, and finance, combined with vaccine hesitancy driven by myths and disinformation.
The WHO recently estimated that nearly 15 million deaths in the first 2 years of the pandemic were associated with COVID-19. Magda Gebre-Selassie, CBC News.
Fighting in Ukraine is intensifying as Russia attempts to tighten its grip on the eastern Donbass region. Russian forces have been firing on a southern city that has become a refuge for people fleeing Mariupol. Residents were left to pick through the rubble of their homes after shelling targeted a local metal fabricating plant. One person was killed and 3 were hurt. Further north, Ukraine State Emergency Services says 2 schools were destroyed by shelling and 3 people are reported killed with 12 wounded. Efforts are continuing to get Ukraine troops out of the besieged steel mill in Mariupol. About 2,000 soldiers are still there. As Ukrainian refugees arrive in Canada, they are turning to social media to help find a place to stay. Even though the federal government announced last month that Ukrainians would have access to accommodations and financial support, some say they've been abandoned. Talia Ricci has the story.
Among the thousands of people arriving at Pearson Airport last week was Alexei. He fled the war in Ukraine to come to Canada because he heard the government was offering help.
When I met the border officer, he told me that this program doesn't work for now.
CBC News agreed to not use his full name as he fears for the safety of his family back home. Alexei was able to leave Ukraine because of a physical disability, but found himself stranded at the airport with nowhere to go and no one to call.
And I was stressed this moment.
It was through social media that he found help. Douglas Scandrett saw a Facebook post pleading for accommodations for a 34-year-old man. He got out of bed and went to pick up Alexei.
So the poor guy is literally at the airport, waiting at the arrivals level, at the gate in the taxi queue area, and he's got nowhere to go. This is absolutely not a one-off situation. This is happening every single day.
A month ago, the federal government announced financial support and accommodations for Ukrainian refugees, but people haven't been able to access that assistance. Ottawa says details are coming, and Toronto says it's working with agencies to come up with solutions. In the meantime, it's ordinary citizens who are offering help.
Oh yeah, you wouldn't believe how many Canadians are stepping to the plate.
Alexei is now staying in Waterford, Ontario with Jane and Joe Lewis. The couple says they've helped Alexei get a social insurance number, a health card, and a bit of money from social services.
It would be very challenging for somebody without help, but I think it's a Canadian thing to do. It's terrible what's happening.
It's terrible. It's inhuman.
It's inhumane
what's happening to them.
I mean, can you imagine what we'd be like if all of a sudden somebody started bombing us?
An act of kindness that's not lost on Alexei.
It's kind of difficult to believe in this because I know that in our planet we have a lot of kind people, but I didn't know that we have a lot of them.
Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
Lots of kind people here. It's another set of obstacles for younger Ukrainians coming into the country. Youth have to adjust to a new home and juggling schooling, and some are entering the country with no parental support. Metro Morning host Ismaila Alpha speaks with 2 teenagers who are navigating Toronto life by themselves.
Well, it's great to meet both of you, and thanks for speaking with me today. So how are you settling into life here in Toronto?
It was a hard way here, so yeah, it took us a long way to get here, and now we're trying to get used to environment here. I love Toronto, and that's the place where I want to study. So yeah, now are the main points to rent a flat and also to save some money for the college.
Now you've are both so young, just teenagers, and you've come here without your families. Your families, your parents are still in Ukraine. Has it been difficult to settle in and transition without the help of your parents?
The most different thing is that, yeah, I really miss my relatives, all my relatives, and it's so hard to speak on the phone, on the video call, and hear like the phrase from my little brother. He's just 4 years old, like, when will you come back? And I don't know what to answer him. Our way from Ukraine to here, it was a long way, but it wasn't so hard because there are a lot of support for Ukrainians now. It took us like almost 2 months to get here and to do all the paperwork for visa.
And while you're here, you initially, you're staying right now with a host family. How were you able to connect that? How did that come about?
Actually, I had no idea how to stay here because we bought some tickets for the flight and I was like, oh my god, what to do next? And we needed a place to stay for a short term just while we are setting up here, looking for a job and other stuff. I went to the site. My friend shared with me the website. It's called icanhelphost.com. And there are some offers from people who can host Ukrainians now in this hard situation. So yeah, that is how I met Camilla and we arranged our staying here.
And now that you are here in Canada, here in Toronto, what have you been doing to support yourselves?
We're working now in a company. It's a sushi chain restaurant. Also, we're going to apply for like emergency financial support because anyway, I need to pay for my college.
You're both just teenagers. How has this experience changed you as people?
I don't know. Maybe I became like more independent. And my plan is to get education and work part-time while I'm studying to afford everything. And then I think after I will graduate from college, it will be easier because my salary will go higher. So yeah, I want to make a career here. Also, I want to have my own house or something like that here. So yeah, I'm going to build here a usual, strong, stable life.
It was wonderful to meet both of you and hear your story about your journey this far and how it will continue. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. It was nice.
We are a week into the Ontario election campaign. To take a look at what the polls are saying, we're joined by Eric Grenier, poll analyst, writer at the website The Writ, and CBC's poll tracker for this provincial election. Eric, let's start with this. What is new in the polls this week?
Well, not much, actually. What we saw at the beginning of the campaign is pretty much what we're seeing right now. In our poll tracker, which is an aggregation of all the polls that are being published, we have the PCs leading with about 38% support. The Liberals are in second at 29%, and the New Democrats are third with 24%. So that 9-point gap between the PCs and the Liberals, more or less where things were on the beginning of the election campaign. And it does mean that if the election were held today, the PCs and Doug Ford would very likely win another majority government.
Does it surprise you then, Eric, that there hasn't been much movement now that the campaign is officially on the way and people are out there campaigning?
A little bit, because when you're the incumbent government and you're starting a campaign with a lead in the polls, often the opposition parties are able to close that gap. We saw that in the federal election just last summer. We're not seeing any real indication of that, though. So for the PCs, it's steady as they go. They want this to stay like this. They don't want to see any movement in the polls because if it continues like this, then it means another 4 years for them.
Yeah, and their leader hasn't been made available much. So what about the leaders? What changes are we seeing in their popularity, if any?
Well, we are seeing a little bit of a change for Stephen Del Duca, the Liberal leader, because he started the campaign with very low name recognition. That's starting to get better. And he's actually closing the gap a little bit on Andrea Horwath in terms of who Ontarians want as premier. But Doug Ford is still leading on that question. So he's leading on the preferred premier. He's leading in terms of the party support. So there's not a lot of signs that there's vulnerabilities, at least at this stage, for the PCs and Doug Ford.
All right, let's focus in on the GTA a little bit. Eric, what are you seeing in the polls here in the GTA?
Well, it's a little bit of a different situation in Toronto itself. There, the Liberals are leading. They're ahead of the PCs by about 6.5 percentage points. So they're in a good position to pick up a lot of the seats that they lost in the last campaign. But in the wider GTA, the lead the PCs have is more around 12 or 13 points. And that's really key for the PCs because if they have that kind of double-digit lead in the GTA, that means that they're winning pretty much all of the seats that they won in the last campaign and maybe some more, and that's what's cementing their majority government right now.
Yeah, that's what they call it, the vote-rich GTA. We saw the leaders face off this week in North Bay. Eric, this coming Monday night is the leaders' debate here in Toronto. How much should we expect debates to move the needle in popular opinion.
Well, when things do shift around, debates are often the key moment when that happens. We saw that in the 2018 campaign with the debate that took place just before the election began. That really hurt the Liberals and it propelled the NDP. But if a debate just confirms what everybody already thinks about Doug Ford and Stephen Del Duca and Andrew Horwath, then you're not going to see any big shift in the polls. And that's what Doug Ford wants. He wants things to stay. He wants a debate that everybody kind of just forgets, because Stephen Del Duca and Andrew Horwath, they need to make it memorable, because they need to change the dial, because otherwise they're not going to win this election.
That is Eric Grenier, polls analyst and writer at the website The Writ. He is running CBC's poll tracker for this election. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Poll tracker can be found on our website. Check out how support has changed over time. You can also find seat projections and the win probability for each party. That's at cbc.ca/poll tracker. Our riding in the city's West End has the lowest voter turnout compared to any other place in the province. Humber River Black Creek residents say politicians often overlook the area due to its diverse and lower socioeconomic demographic. Well, last night, CBC hosted a listening session in Jane and Finch, the heart of the riding, to hear from residents about the issues they want to see addressed. Kelly Ewan has more.
Because of the lack of resources in the educational system, we have to move out or find unconventional ways to be able to build our portfolio.
Inside Driftwood Community Center last night, residents from Jane and Finch coming together to discuss what makes their community unique and the problems they'd like to see fixed.
The roads are messy, the schools are messy, and there's a serious school to nowhere pipeline.
Their riding of Humber River Black Creek had the lowest voter turnout in the last provincial election, with only 47% of eligible voters going to the polls, compared to the provincial average of 58%. But residents say it's not because of apathy. They've just lost faith that anything will change.
We need folks that are in decision-making power to absolutely make decisions that will impact us and help us and help benefit this community. But so far, it's not happening, and it hasn't happened.
22% of residents in Humber River Black Creek and Etobicoke North are low income. 1 in 6 are born outside Canada. 68% are racialized. Members of the Jane and Finch community say they are used to getting overlooked, from infrastructure to healthcare to education, employment, and housing.
My parents are included in this as well, and working for basically minimum wage and trying to maintain a household. It's not going to work, especially with the increase in rent as well.
There's also the more recent concern of gentrification.
It's just not going to be the same place in 2 years.
Jane and Fir Grove right now, which is the south of here, that's being demolished right now, and community has been displaced.
During this election campaign, CBC Toronto is spending time in this neighborhood to better understand these issues and shed light on what the community says it needs when it comes to support.
Raising the wages, I feel that it needs to reflect the livability. It's really hard for many people, period, to prioritize groceries and rent and bills. It's also housing being a conversation, but moving away from the conversation of housing of like ownership. Ownership is important, I guess, for certain people, but in reality, a lot of urban spaces are renter.
Working in a grassroots organization that is from Jane and Finch that advocates for creative arts in the community, we need a space for us to be able to work in the spaces that we live in and not have to travel downtown or travel too far out of their way to be able to do what they love.
For Winston LaRose, who has been a community leader for 3 decades, it's the resilience of the people in Jane and Finch and the passion he sees in the younger generation that gives him hope.
And I feel very confident that they will be progressively moving up to take control of this area.
And that was just the start of a conversation CBC Toronto is having in Humber River Black Creek. And on election night, I will be back in the community with reaction from voters and residents. Kelly Ewan, CBC News, Toronto.
One Toronto councillor's plan to allow people to have a beer or a glass of wine in city parks is being put on the shelf for now.
If we're going to make any change, which I personally would think we could do, and do it responsibly and do it in a way that most people, the vast majority of people, could accept, then we have to do it properly.
Councillor Josh Matlow wanted a pilot project to allow people to drink in parks this summer. However, Mayor Tory says he doesn't think the plan has the support to pass City Council right now. Instead, Mayor Tory is recommending it be studied further. The mayor is asking for a report to be presented next year. Canada Post unveiled its newest processing plant in North Scarborough today. The Albert Jackson Processing Facility is named after a Toronto man believed to be the country's first black mail carrier. Nali Kalata reports.
3, 2, 1.
And just like that, Canada Post's new processing facility is officially named after Canada's first black mail carrier, Albert Jackson.
It makes me feel that humanity exists. People are people, no matter regard of race, color, or creed.
Hired as a mail carrier in Toronto in 1882, Albert Jackson faced discrimination almost immediately.
Fellow postal workers refused to train him, and he was given a bucket and a mop to clean the floors.
Toronto's black community rallied around Jackson, demanding he be allowed to do the job he was hired to do. Facing intense pressure during a close election, then Prime Minister Sir John A. Macdonald intervened, and Jackson was reinstated as a mail carrier.
We were part of the problem. We were the problem. And, you know, we can't fix it today, but we can own that story, tell that story, and learn from it so that we can do better going forward.
The new building is the size of 6 CFL football fields. Canada Post's first zero-carbon building, fitted with solar panels, brake pods, and once open, capable of processing more than 1 million packages a day.
When COVID hit in March, April of 2020, our volumes immediately hit the roof. Basically, we've established a new norm with e-commerce online shopping.
The plant will be vital to help meet that growing demand. E-commerce in Canada is expected to top $100 billion by 2025.
The key thing is a parcel will arrive here, get sorted to its final destination and relabeled potentially, and be in and out in 4 minutes.
Efficient, but also inspirational.
As a first-generation Canadian immigrant, I could become a little bit, emotional on this as well. Diversity is a fact, but inclusiveness is an option.
One Canada Post hopes to deliver. Natalie Kalata, CBC News, Toronto.
18 Toronto office buildings will be retrofitted as part of the city's net zero emissions goal.
We know that a big part of those initiatives is partnerships with the private sector. We can't do it alone, right? We have lots of private buildings. We know also that 40% of GHGs in our city are by the real estate. So it is important that we lead by example. Only by working together, only by the different sectors coming together will we reach our target as a city.
The project will involve upgrading each building's existing systems, including boilers, heat pumps, and cooling systems, to energy-efficient systems and low-carbon heating sources. Now, real estate company Dream, which is behind the project, says it will create 1,500 jobs. Retrofitted buildings range in age from historical to new high-rises. And we're still talking about that high-pressure system, Colette, bringing us all this wonderful sunshine.
Yeah, we're just kind of on repeat here, Dwight, with this weather pattern, except, of course, that we warmed up a little bit more today. And I was showing you earlier in the show some of the daytime highs, some incredible numbers into the 30s, low 30s, even towards Collingwood and Ottawa at 30 degrees today. Well, these are the current temperatures. So even at this time in the evening, they're hanging in there, very mild, 26 still in Toronto, which is our daytime high. A little cooler because of the lake breeze there towards Kingston. Sarnia still hanging in too at 29. And just showing you as we look at those contours again, where you see a little bit of green near the lake because it is a bit cooler just because that flow coming off. And I was showing you earlier, it depends where you take the temperature of the lake, but still looking at 7, 8 degrees for that water temperature. Look at Kitchener here, still at 27. Hamilton, though, a little cooler because of the lake at 22. So that's where we're at. But what's nice, or for many people, I think, is that it's not humid. So you've got the heat, you've got the sunshine, our humidity. Look at the dew point numbers. So these would need to be in the upper teens or into the 20s for it to feel oppressive, and they are very low. We'll see those creeping up as we get towards the weekend, but it's still going to be comfortable. It's not going to be that big of a deal. So here's that ridge of high pressure then. It means clear skies tonight. Our low overnight for Toronto, 13 degrees. Still sending all that active weather to the north of us. So we get another day without active weather for Friday. Now, Saturday, things begin to change, at least in the region. So let me just show you as I roll this forward. Saturday, 1 o'clock, doing okay, but starting to see shower or thunderstorms popping up in cottage country, and then we'll see more as we get into the later afternoon, but should still stay dry for the GTA, but around the Golden Horseshoe towards St. Catharines, Niagara Falls, you might get some afternoon activity there. Otherwise, it's really for Toronto not till Sunday where we'll get a greater chance of scattered showers or thunderstorms continuing into Monday, and you'll probably notice here eventually we're going to cool those temperatures back closer to seasonal, Dwight.
And as you always remind us, we need that rainfall too.
Yeah, we certainly are by the time it's so dry right now, by the time it gets here.
Thank you, Colette.
You're welcome.
As we head to break, here's a look at where the markets closed today. The TSX suffered a 6th straight session of losses, closing down by 138 points. The Dow also falling by 103 points. Our dollar traded lower at 76.69 cents US. We'll be right back. After 2 years, Canada's largest Indigenous youth dance performance is set to finally return to the stage tonight. The group will perform alongside 2 Juno Award nominees in what is a culmination of months of choreography sessions and rehearsals. Charity organization Outside Looking In helped put the performance together.
Outside Looking In is a national charity where we work with Indigenous youth across Canada. But our flagship program that we're known for is a high school credit dance program for grades 7 to 12. We're going in about every 3 to 4 weeks with professional choreographers, and we work with the kids for a full week. We look at the kids who have been doing their academics, they've been coming to school, they know the choreography. Whoever that group has settled down to be, they get the opportunity to travel to Toronto for 2 weeks, rehearse, get ready to put on this large event.
Your soul is coming out and you give so much energy out. I'm focused on the dancing, but it feels like a way to express my emotions and how I feel on the inside and get everything out.
Sometimes school is a huge barrier just to get through the doors for our kids. They have other things going on in their lives. So if they've made it to this stage, you know they've jumped through quite a number of hurdles.
It's fun with the students too. It's very energetic and chaotic and powerful. When we're rehearsing and practicing, everyone's just hyping each other up and saying like, "You can do it." It was amazing.
Once you're in it and you just not become shy anymore, it's a big surprise that oh, I didn't know I was able to communicate, to socialize properly and not feel judged, just be confident, not be afraid to achieve what you want to achieve in life.
When you see them on there and after all this hard work over the course of a year and you see that kid up there smiling, it's really is priceless.
Excitement and anxiety in the air tonight as the Leafs could become playoff series winners for the first time in 18 years. And if they get the win against Tampa, they'll be doing it on enemy turf. Greg Ross is with the fans in Maple Leaf Square right now. And Greg, the energy out there, are we going to do it tonight, sir?
Well, I got to tell you, if the energy has anything to do with the outcome of the game, I think the Leafs are going to be in pretty good hands. There's no doubt about it. I'm right here in the thick of things in Maple Leaf Square with the fans, and I can tell you right now, there is a lot of confidence in the square right now. And of course, it's because of the fact that the Leafs come into Game 6 with a 3-2 lead in this series. Let me slip by you guys here. And a chance to close it out tonight. And it's been a while since the Leafs have had an opportunity like this. We do know that since 2018, they've had 7 chances to close it out. They haven't been able to get the job done. But these fans here are confident that they're going to do that tonight. You think the streak ends tonight?
The streak ends tonight, baby. Just from the square, the whole square is here. What are we doing tonight? What are we doing tonight?
Look at the sign here. I've been asking the fans, are you nervous? I mean, it's been a long time since they've advanced to the second round. And sign guy here made the sign because I told him to. Do I look nervous? And you don't look nervous.
No, I'm not. We're going to get them tonight. Let's go! Yeah!
He also had a sign last game that said, Matthews is my son. That was all over the broadcast. He's brought that one with him again tonight, a good luck charm. But I got to tell you, the fans here are out in full force. This is probably the busiest it gets when you're in Maple Leaf Square. There's more fans lined up on Bremer Boulevard. It could be a celebration on the streets of Toronto tonight. Are you guys going to be sticking around to celebrate downtown if they win tonight?
Of course, of course. That's what Leaf fans do, right?
Well, they haven't had many opportunities, I'll tell you that right now. Are you guys ready to celebrate? How excited are you? I bet you don't even remember the last time the Leafs advanced to the second round of the playoffs.
Wasn't even born, so we're fired up tonight.
Well, there you go. These guys, not old enough to have even been alive the last time the Leafs advanced. That was 2004 when the Leafs beat the Ottawa Senators in Game 7, where they would go on to lose in the second round of the Philadelphia Flyers. So the Leafs hoping to change their luck tonight, Dwight. We'll see if they can make it happen.
Thank you, Greg. I'm not playing any hockey tonight. I got butterflies in my stomach. I really hope they can pull it off tonight. We've waited a long time for this. That is our show for tonight. Thank you for joining us. We're going to see you back here tomorrow at 6. Have a great night and go Leafs, go.